Well, it's hard for me to do this, but there's just too much going on, and sometimes you have to speak up. Sometimes you have to rise to the occasion, and I'm going through a lot personally, but there's just too much going on Long Island, and the news media just does a horrible job covering it, and it's hard for me. And you know, you're not going to see regular Piney News updates, but by golly, this is something that's, you know, we have some really bad things that are going on. And, you know, the first thing, of course, has to do with these nice bus cuts. They have now put up the schedules on the website, and I do want to go over with you what is going to happen on April 9th, because this bus system will be decimated. There are cuts out there that have been added, and that has to be brought up. The bus route elimination table here from NICE, obviously they have all the community shuttles, and the N19, the N36, N45, N47, N51, N57, and N78 and N79. And you know the way I feel that the N19 and then the N78 and N79, well, at least the N79 should have been kept. They carry a good amount of people. But in addition, we have major bus service reductions. All right? Particularly the N27 is going to get, the N23 is going to have service reductions as well as the N27. Basically, weekdays, except for a very short period of time, both the 27 and 23 will revert to hourly service. And the N27 will not run on weekends at all. And you know that the N72 will no longer run to Babylon. And let me tell you that those trips in rush hour coming out of Babylon are full trips. So I don't know what all those people are going to do. We have the N81 being eliminated, and the N80 will run in a van-sized vehicle. So it's going to be renamed the Sunrise Mall Community Shuttle. So that will be the new community shuttle, while the other community shuttles get eliminated. And in addition to that, N1 weekend service is eliminated, N16 Saturday service is eliminated, N27 Saturday and Sunday service is eliminated, N33 has its Sunday service eliminated, and the N48 Jericho Quad Shuttle will also be eliminated. Having the N27 not run on weekends at all is a complete disaster. That's a disaster right there. And so when I look at these schedules here, and I'm not going to go over them because it's just going to take too much time, and I don't have the energy for it. But you can look at the schedules, the links are here. There are significant reductions. And let me just add, the N22A has also been eliminated. They didn't put that on the website, but it has. If you look at the N22 schedule on the website, you will see that the N22A has been eliminated, and it has now been replaced. The N22 has been replaced. The N22A has been replaced by N22 short turns that will run between Mineola and Jamaica. So yeah, Roosevelt Field has had a service cut of Jamaica buses. In addition, the N6 Express midday service is also being eliminated to Nassau Community. That's going to be eliminated as well. These cuts are going to be devastating to a lot of riders. It's going to be devastating to the college. You can look through all the cuts and see all the things. However, I will say, for some reason, for some miracle that God is probably watching over me and Westbury, Westbury is not seeing any major service reductions at all. It seems that all the N22 runs that serve Westbury are intact. All the N35 runs that serve Westbury are intact as well. So I'm very grateful for that. I don't know how that was able to be done. I think maybe Title VI has something to do with it, because if you take a look at most of these service reductions, they are affecting areas that are not low-income areas. And I think legally, you know, Title VI requires the bus service to be provided in lower-income areas, such as, you know, Westbury, Hempstead. I hate to put Westbury in the same sentence as Hempstead. Obviously, Hempstead is significantly worse, but you know, they both have difficulties. And so you can look at the schedules. I'm not going to go over them in this video. But, you know, I can't. I don't have the energy. I really don't. Trust me. It's hard for me to even do this. But there's just so many problems going on. And, you know, I guess to some extent I will have to continue to follow the bus service news on a limited basis, because let's face it, we have significant cuts in our bus service coming up that are going to leave lots of people stranded. And the Nassau County Legislature, there was a trip up to Albany where they were, they basically were asking for more money. Nassau, you got to fund your bus service. I've said it over and over again. This legislature thinks that they can just play games with the state, play games with people's lives. I've said this before. I'm not going to waste my time in front of the legislature. But they don't care. And, sometimes people just have to learn the hard way. They think that these cuts going to happen and that they'll be able to get away with it. But I think that once they happen, there's going to be a huge uproar. And a lot of it's going to be from employers. They're not going to be able to get their employees to work. The economic hit is going to be bad, and I really do think that in the end they will have to wind up coughing up more money to run these buses. You can't have all these cuts. Some of these cuts you can do, all right? But the cuts that I feel that should have been taken off the table were the N79, the N19. Those two routes should have stayed, all right? At least have the N19 run weekdays only. At least provide some weekday service on that route, all right? N27 really needs to run weekends because what's going to happen is the N21 is having its midday and Sunday service eliminated. So Glen Cove, which is somewhat, Glen Cove is kind of, parts of Glen Cove are very rich, parts are kind of poor. It leaves Glen Cove without any bus service at all. No bus service in Glen Cove on Sundays. That is crazy. So the North Shore seems to be getting hit very hard by these cuts, especially the north-south routes. And it's going to be bad for the N23. I mean, having the 20, you can look at the schedules and see. I put the link there below. To all the nice website. Just scroll down to the bottom, and you'll see that the schedules are there. And the pick's already happened. So these cuts are going to happen. Rockville Center Bus Depot will be closing. They've already knocked down some trees at the property there in Mitchell Field to have more room to park buses. These cuts are happening. We have reached the point of no return. Norma Gonzalez, what a freaking liar. I can't believe I was nice to that lady. I'm sorry, Norma. You're a real old hag, all right, for doing this to people in Nassau County, all right? You can blame Ed Mangano, and I will blame Ed Mangano to some extent, but you in the legislature, you could have restored this. You could have done something. Don't just go to this. You should have come up with the money by now, all right? She said, well, I ain't touching the youth programs. You know what? I think it would have been better to cut these youth programs. This actually puts people out of work. Thousands and thousands of people won't be able to get to work. The economic hit will be devastating. And if I were in your shoes, Norma, I would have cut the youth programs to save the bus service. All right? That's my opinion. At least save some of the bus service. But obviously, I will make sure, and I think we should all remember in November, and I'm hoping this will be Norma Gonzalez's last term in the Nassau County Legislature, as well as other people. Laura Curran, the Democrats have let me down just as much as you, Norma. Laura Curran, all these people, she keeps repeating the same thing. Well, our county's fund balance is millions and millions of dollars over. She keeps saying the same thing over and over again, but hasn't done a damn thing to actually save the bus service. Hasn't said, well, forget about that. Let's cut something else in the budget so we can save bus service. They haven't done that. And the hit to this county will be devastating. And all of you in the legislature, I think all of you need to be looking for work come this November. I'm certainly going to remember. And, Norma Gonzalez, she's, I'm not saying she's a bad person, but I don't appreciate being, saying she cares about this situation, hearing them care and say, oh, we don't want these cuts to happen. Well, now the cuts are happening, and you haven't done enough to stop it. It's too late now. The cuts are happening. I don't think they can be reversed at this point, and we will have at least 3 months of pain, unless the money magically appears and we somehow can restore some service in June. But the damage to people's lives, Norma, will be devastating. Imagine having your only way of getting to work taken away and having no alternative, like these people on the N79. Leaving people completely stranded. These people can't afford taxis. Obviously, I wonder how much money Norma has received from taxi companies. Probably quite a bit, just like Ed Mangano. These taxis are going to be there to rip people off. They're going to be ripping students off because their bus service is getting cut. Middays and 6X to the college. This is a travesty. It really is. I guess I've gone on enough about it, but it just pisses me off. But like I said, Nassau County Legislature, I guess you're too stupid to really fully appreciate the situation. So you will have to learn the hard way. There'll be a lot of unhappy people, and they won't just be bus riders, and you're all going to be looking for work in November, because I hope that the taxpayers and the residents of Nassau County see you all for the fraud you are, along with the county executive, and vote all of you out, both Democrat and Republican. This is the most useless legislature. As far as I'm concerned, you guys in the legislature don't deserve 1 fucking cent, not 1 cent in pay, you know. Anyway, we have another problem that I have to talk about. There was an Amtrak derailment. Actually, Amtrak Acela train derailed this morning at Penn Station and sideswiped the New Jersey Transit train. New Jersey Transit train, very limited service out of Penn. I was suspended for most of the day of limited service now out of Penn. The Long Island Railroad has also been affected. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Babylon branch trains have been canceled. And trains on the Far Rockaway and Hempstead branch, those that operate out of Penn, will be moved to operate out of Atlantic Terminal. And 2 Long Beach trains have been canceled. And some diesel trains that originate out of Penn Station will originate out of Jamaica. 3 Huntington branch trains have been canceled. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Port Washington branch trains have been canceled. I think they managed the cancellations better this time again. The lines that have the most service, like the Babylon and the Port Washington, they should have the most cancellations. So I think they actually did a good job here with this. Obviously, the people on the Babylon branch, they're so spoiled. They get their nice little 3-stop flyers. They're going to have to actually be on a crowded train for once in their lives. But that's what it is. The other thing that I briefly want to talk about here, the third track project. This was in the news. It's very important that this third track project happen. And we have Kemp Hannon and all the people from Garden City, New Hyde Park, all the rich, annoying, rich, snobby people out there against the third track, saying it's going to disrupt their lives and all this other crap. And yet, our own mayor, Westbury, Peter Cavallaro, is out there in favor of the third track. I'll admit, maybe I put Westbury down a little too much, all right? Its community has some real problems. However, I am glad to see our village realizes the need for a third track to improve service on the Long Island Railroad's main line. And I think it would be great for the economy, and Westbury knows it needs help, and that's why you need this third track. These other towns like Garden City, they're full of rich people. What do they have to lose? They don't have anything to lose, they'll just go up. We are struggling. We need help. We need better train service. Obviously, those snobs in New Hyde Park and Garden City, they don't care. However, this project must happen, and it must happen for the improvement of the main line too, because it really needs to be the main line instead of having most of the service on the Babylon branch. Most of the service should be on the main line. The main line is a crucial artery in the Long Island Railroad. The third track, along with the elimination of the grade crossings, to me is a no-brainer. How can anyone be against it? Obviously, they're a stupid yokel, and these people are stupid yokels. That's all I have to say. It's called progress. Get with the program. The other things that I just want to briefly talk about here, Long Islanders moving away. This was talked about in the news. You can read the article. A lot of people are fed up with the high taxes and the segregation. I've talked about this in the past. There's so much segregation on Long Island, where these communities, basically all the decent communities with decent services, are basically mostly white. And they're also being taken over by rich people, more rich white people, these executives and stuff that move into them, driving up the property values and trying to keep minorities out, trying to keep the disabled out, trying to keep even people like me out. In a lot of ways, I'm treated like I am a minority because of my disability when it comes to my search for finding a place. It just annoys me, but other people are just giving up and they're moving away. I don't want to live anywhere else, all right? And that's it. I don't want to live in New Jersey. I don't want to live in Connecticut. I don't want to live anywhere else. This is my home. I happen to like Long Island a great deal. I think there's the right combination of many different things here. We have the parklands, we have the woods, we have the trails, we have the beaches, but we also have the towns, we have the transportation, and we have the commercial development. Many places in New Jersey, they're spread out, they're lonely, and they're depressing as hell. Toms River, it's a beautiful place, and when you get married, you buy a house there, great. But for somebody like me, Toms River would be a terrible situation. And, it's very spread out there, very little transportation, and it's really kind of depressing there too, in my opinion. It's dark at night, it's empty. The other thing that I'll briefly talk about, Nassau Sanctuary. Nassau was placed on a sanctuary a city list by the federal government. Nassau County is denying it. But we all know these Nassau County legislatures are in bed with the real estate, with the Wall Street, to keep the Long Island segregated, to keep these illegals here, because they're profiting off of it. The illegals are steered into certain communities, like mine, like other communities, and they're just steered always into communities of color, always into communities of lower income, and the burden to educate these, especially the children, is unfairly placed on people who are already struggling. And I think it's ridiculous. Obviously, the rich are for it, because that way they don't have to deal with any of the they can just dump it in someone else's community. However, I will say the crime these illegals bring, there was 2 crimes that you can check the link below. Illegal went on a stabbing spree in Hempstead. He was deported 4 times. He's an MS-13 member, and this is what comes over the border. This is why we need the border wall. This is why we need to deport illegals, all right? This is why we need to get these people out of here, all right? It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. What's going on Long Island with this, the discrimination and all this crap. Everybody on Long Island complains about high taxes, especially high school taxes. And the school districts is a big reason why there's so much segregation going on right now. We have so many little school districts on Long Island. And I personally like to see consolidation on at least a town basis, if not even a county basis. Instead of all these different school districts, like 60, 70 school districts, we should have only like 5, all right? All right, you wouldn't have to pay all these different administrators, and it would give people the opportunity that are in struggling school districts to go to a better school, all right? And that would provide more incentive for that school to compete and improve itself. The current system does not work, but yet the current system, the rich people who live in the lily white towns with the money, they don't want to have other people going to their school district. So they would rather pay. I guess they would rather pay these high school taxes than have the school districts consolidated. If we consolidated a lot of the government, we could really get the taxes down. We need to get the cost of living down on Long Island. It would really make this a much easier place to live. All right. And the last thing is the HUD housing cost. HUD housing cuts, I should say. Trump has cut funds for housing, HUD housing. Now the media, of course, will try to do anything to, bash Donald Trump. Obviously, that's what they try to do. But I think I will have to disagree with him. I think some of the cuts, the budget cuts that he's proposed, such as cutting the funding for these programs, will wind up hurting U.S. citizens. All right, I can't agree with the man on everything. This is something I'm not going to agree with him on. I also don't agree with him on his dismissal of Preet Bharara, who was trying to clean up New York. I think that was a mistake too. But no one is perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. But we need to cooperate with Trump when it comes to getting rid of the illegals, getting rid of these people. They're not. Let me just say it again. These are people that have broken the law. They've come here illegally. They don't respect the community. They commit crime while they're here. I have nothing against immigrants who come here legally, all right? I love culture. I love diversity. I have no problem with that, all right? But when you come to this country, you have to respect the town, all right? You can't turn it into where you come from. And this is what's going on in Westbury. That's what's going on in Hempstead. And it's really unfortunate. It really is unfortunate, that's all I have to say. I really wish that we see, when it comes to the ICE, people, Nassau and all these municipalities need to cooperate with ICE. And I think that Donald Trump, anyone who does not want to work with ICE and tries to protect the illegal immigrants, I think that I don't care if it's an elected official or whoever in the government, but if you're not going to cooperate with ICE in deporting illegal immigrants, then you need to face obstruction of justice charges. That's what you call obstruction of justice, because you are obstructing federal justice, all right? And everybody talks about sanctuary cities. Well, there is no sanctuary in sanctuary cities for people, U.S. citizens, who have to worry about the crime, the blight, and the damage that these illegals cause to their community. This is why Westbury is struggling. This is why we have struggling in our town. When the sun goes down, it's dead. There is no nightlife here. All right, there's no nightlife. The space theater. I mean, I was there last night, and there was a band playing, like a little lounge bar in the front there. There was a band playing there, and they were playing to no one. There was no one in there. The band playing in there, and it's empty. They're playing to no one. It's empty. There's no one in there. There's a band playing, see? You see? I don't know if you can see. I don't know if you can hear the music. There's no one. They're playing to no one. This is unbelievable. There's no one in here. The town is seriously struggling. We have a condo building that was opened almost a year ago that's empty. We have serious problems that need to be addressed because right now people aren't moving to Westbury. They see the illegals around. They don't want to come here. They see the problems, and it's ingrained. It's more than just the illegals. I know that. It's the real estate industry that continues to insist on dumping not just illegals, but sex offenders, unstable people, and this is a town that is getting dumped on with just misfits constantly. It's got to stop. But like I said, I have to work, and this is why I can't keep doing these updates. I mean, I've got to provide you with some news once in a while, occasionally, but I'm not going to call it the Piney News. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but I can't keep doing this because I got to constantly focus on looking for a place, and it's very frustrating because right now, most of the listings, I have a limit to how much I can, rental I can pay in my program, and the rents are always higher than that. It's very hard to find something within that criteria, and then you have to deal with the fact that if there is something, it's usually in a bad area that's even worse than your area, and also you have to deal with the fact that you have these places that are not legal apartments. It has to be a legal apartment. It can't be an illegal apartment. Basically, an apartment in a single-family home is not a legal apartment. It has to be a legal two- or multi-family home or building. And that's a rice rocket. That's what you have to listen to when you're in these old beat-up cars constantly all over the place, just driving you nuts. I just want the best for people on Long Island, and I don't hate rich people, but what I am asking for is some respect here, you come into all the decent towns on Long Island and just drive up the prices of everything, and trying to deny people that are different than you, that aren't as rich, that aren't of the same skin color. You're trying to deny them the right to live there, and to me that's ridiculous, and I think that we all need to just improve things here on Long Island. We're not going to be able to get we can't just keep cutting services for the poor, cutting bus service, and these rich people think all these cuts aren't going to affect them. Well, they are going to affect them, and our environment is struggling too. I mean, if you saw yesterday's video, the lakes out in the Pine Barrens have dried up. They've dried up because it's not just the lack of precipitation, it's also because of the overdevelopment. It's more than just an irony that the lakes have disappeared, and this has started to happen when all that overdevelopment of Riverhead took place. You can't keep doing this. But Long Island's my home. I love it. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. And, it's difficult for me to come here and make another video because it's hard. I'm depressed. I'm struggling. When you live in such a depressing place, it is it is a struggle every day. And it's not just the anxiety over the crime that these illegals are bringing, but it's also just the fact that it's so depressing. There's no one around. There's no one that speaks your language. There's no one to talk to. You're all by yourself. When you're struggling with depression and loneliness, it just makes it that much harder. And it's a struggle. But I want to bring you this latest news. I will try to make another video when these cuts take place on Nice and maybe show you. I know I shouldn't, because sometimes people just have to learn their own lessons, but it affects me too. It makes it difficult for me to get around. And while I'm grateful that the cuts have not affected routes in Westbury, they do affect other routes that I take from time to time. It's going to be much harder for me to get around, and it does affect me. And it's just it's just something I have to get involved in, unfortunately, and talk about. I can't just completely ignore it after doing this for so long. I can't completely just say, screw it. I can't do that. I just don't have it in my heart. I care too much about Long Island to completely be quiet while greedy politicians and Wall Street and all these other people just try to ruin what is a nice place to live, but they're trying to ruin it. We can't let them do that. But anyway, that's it, and I'll try to see what we can do. If there's any news, major news with NICE before now and when the cuts happen, as far as restorations of service, here's one of the interesting things I want to leave you with. I saw a sign at Roosevelt Field today, and it did not list the N19 and the N79 as being eliminated, but the website says they're being eliminated. So go figure. I don't know. Maybe a miracle will happen. Miracles, you got to pray sometimes. We have to believe in God sometimes, and divine intervention in situations like this. I believe He is looking out for us, and I think, we will succeed. We will prevail, in trying to make Long Island a better place, but for now, that's it. Take it easy, and continue to wish me luck. It's hard for me to come back here and do this, but there's just too much stuff going on, and sometimes you have to kind of just get back on the horse and just for one time and just let people know what's going on, because the press is not talking about this stuff properly, and that's all I gotta say. So that's it, folks. Until April 9th, or is April 9th, right? April 9th. Until April 9th, we try to ride those routes one last time. But once April 9th happens, all hell's going to break loose. And the people in Mineola, they're going to hear from us. Take it easy.